Hey, welcome back to the Positive Side Podcast. Glad you're tuning in. Special day today. I got back in the interviews, and if I look back a couple weeks ago, I was too sick to do one, and then I had a death in the family at a funeral. I'm glad to get back into it. It's like anything, man. And when you're out of the rhythm, it just feels good to get back on the horse. And today's gonna be a special one. Now, I'm bringing in my guest on Danny Bader in here in just a second, but I watched a video with Danny this morning, and man, you guys are in for an absolute I mean, this is going to be one of the best shows you've seen or heard if you're watching or listening. You've heard in a long time. Now, Danny is a best-selling author, sought-after speaker. His life was transforming. He was hit by 8,000 volts of electricity, ripped through him, came back to life. And all you listeners out there know this is like right down my lane. Something bigger than us. That for sure. I know he knows that. And obviously, if going through what he's gone through, man, it's exciting to just to have him on here and talk about that experience. And now, Danny, I know you've probably told the story 10 billion times, but for my guest and for me personally, well, first of all, welcome to the show, my friend.
Glad to be here. Thank you for
Second,
those kind words.
oh, dude, this is gonna be great, man. Second of all, just tell us your story. I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, so I'll give you kind of the elevator pitch version of the story, the cliff notes, and then you can kind of pull threads
Perfect.
wherever you need to. But Jeremy, when I grew up in a pretty normal household. I had six brothers, one sister, Irish Catholic. Mom and dad are still alive. Life was pretty easy. Played sports, grade school, high school, college. Out of college, a couple jobs I didn't dig too much. I said, I'm going to go find myself. I went to Aspen, Colorado, down the beach in New Jersey. So, real kind of easy life until I was 28. And that's when I had that accident. I was working for two friends of mine, they're two brothers. And the one brother and I were lowering a ladder late in the day in July of 92. I saw the wires and I asked him, I said, hey, are we going to be okay with these? And he said, yep, we did it this way this morning. And he was getting ready to go take his son, who was about 2 or 3 years old, fishing. And I was getting ready to go play 9 holes with my buddies and, have a beer or two afterwards. And I had that kind of feeling in my belly, like, I don't know, man, we might be close to these wires. And I didn't pay attention to it. And we hit it by about, the burn mark was maybe a half inch from the top. So very, very slim margin of human error. And as you said, about 8 to 10,000 volts of electricity. It ripped down the metal ladder and it went in my hands and it went out my feet and my socks and my boots. I had holes in all of them. And it killed me and my friend. And the other brother came down and did some CPR on me. It didn't work. But he said I was dead probably for about 8 minutes. My other buddy tragically never came back. He left a beautiful wife, three beautiful little kids. And yeah, it was just a dark time. But when my body stopped, there was a part of me that continued on. And we can get into that a little bit. But up until that, life was pretty easy for me. And then I was instantly introduced to the need for perseverance and resilience and all those good things.
Okay, so I got to ask all these random questions.
Yeah.
I'm just dying to know. Okay, so you put the ladder, or someone puts the ladder. I don't want to put it on anybody, but the ladder hits the wire.
Yep.
Do you see sparks? Do you remember anything? Does it go? I mean, so does it instant? And
Yeah.
do you? How far up on the ladder are you?
Well, I wasn't on the ladder, so
Oh,
it's a
okay,
lativator, and it leans against the house, and it's got a little motor on the bottom and a hoist. So you send all your supplies up, so you don't have to carry them up.
okay,
And it's about 28 feet long, and it doesn't collapse because it has that motor that runs up it, or the bucket that runs up it. So when you lower it, you're both guys are standing on the ground, and the ladder's between you. One guy pushes it so it's straight up, and then the other guy starts to walk away with it.
okay,
So that one guy's footing it, and then the other guy comes this way. So it's a long, from off the house all the way down to ground level, and then you put it up on on the racks on the truck.
okay,
So yeah, we were both on the ground, lowering this thing,
okay.
and
So
we've done it and did it many, many times.
so it sparks. Do you remember seeing the spark?
No, when it hit, man, when it hit, I thought in an instant, I thought I was shot or there was a nuclear explosion, and it was like that, and then I had an absolute calm and an absolute peace. I knew I was dying. I wasn't there anymore. I wasn't yelling for help. But what's interesting, and this is the part, I saw the other brother coming down off the roof. So me and the one brother are low on the ladder. Bam, we both get hit. I have no idea what's going on now, and I'm absolutely peaceful. I see the other brother coming down the ladder, and I'm yelling to him. I'm yelling, say, hey, get your brother, get your brother, get your brother, get your brother. And then, my soul, my spirit, I have my beliefs around, that's something bigger than us. It left my body. My body laid on the ground, and my energy, it left, and it was joined with its source. I call it God. People have other names for it. Some people don't have any name for it.
Yeah.
But it was, it was absolute love and peace and joy and comfort and unconditional love and all those words we try to use in this life that don't describe it at all. It was the hardest part in the book when I wrote. I was trying to write about this experience, and my editor said, "Just keep going. People will get it." But I'm like, that word doesn't do it. This word doesn't do it.
Yeah.
So then here's the thing: I'm communicating with God, and
This is so cool.
I know, and it's a cosmic communication. But I was on a podcast last night. I had a guest, and we were talking, and we were talking about the proof of God. And here's the thing: the communication it wasn't like me talking to you right now. It was a union.
Yeah.
So you need to communicate when you're with somebody else. I was joined with this, so it was just, again, the words are not here to describe what was going on. At some point, though, I said, not in words, I said, what about my wife or my girlfriend, who's my wife now, 27 years, and what about my mom? This is going to kill them, because I had that choice to stay or go, and I wanted to stay, and that's why when I came back, I was so, freaking screwed up. So I come back to life now. I'm back in my body. I can hear sounds. I can't move, and I'm laying on my back, but it feels as though I'm laying in fetal position. And now I hear the guy that I was yelling to coming down the ladder, my buddy Stu. He's over about 15 feet away working on his brother, trying to revive him. So you know what I'm saying? I have no passage of time here. No, what I told you what happened is what happened. So now I get my motor skills back, and I crawl up next to him. And God rest his soul, he passed at 64, way too young, my buddy Stu. And he looks at me and he says, "How are you here?" And I said, "I don't know what you're talking about, but I'll do mouth to mouth and you do chest." And we worked on, his brother, my buddy, for a little while. The paramedics then came. So here's the passage of time, right? Here's where I would always talk to Stu, and he would say, "Man, you had to be dead for 8 minutes." The cops come now, the paramedics come, and they said, "All right, you guys, we got this, move away." And I looked reasonably fine then. They didn't see all the blisters on my hands where it went in. They didn't see the holes in my boots. So I go to sit against the fence, and my feet are killing me. And I look down, I have little black pinholes on each side of each boot. Then I take them off, my white sweat socks, holes with black, take them off, and I have holes in my feet, Jeremy. My left foot kind of looked like that, but there was no blood because it was all cauterized. So I'm like looking into a hole in my foot. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Stu comes over to me, first time we talked, and he said, "What happened?" I said, "I guess we hit the wire." And he said, "Yeah, I know, I heard it." So he heard the pop. And I said, "I know, I saw you coming down the ladder, and I was yelling to you to get Bruce, get Bruce." And he said, "What?" I said, "Stewie, I saw you coming down. I was yelling to you." He looked at me, he said, "You didn't say anything." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "I came down, I came to you first. You were in fetal position. I rolled you over. Your eyes are rolled back, all white, foam on your mouth, no heart rate, no respiration." He said, "I worked on you for a few minutes, CPR. Then I ran across the street." His dad happened to live across the street where we kept all the supplies, and we were working on a house. He said, "I ran over there, called 911, talked to them for a minute or so. And then I ran back past you, and you were still out. And then that's when I got to my brother." So,
Wow.
that's the wild part, right? I experienced something when I was straddling the human world and the next world, the spiritual world. And I saw him, and I was yelling to him as sure as I'm talking to you right now. That will be with me forever.
It's so interesting because, I mean, there's all kinds of questions in my head. I guess you talked about the time frame. That I think that's fascinating. When you, okay, so you remember seeing him or seeing get Stu. Is it Stu? I want to make sure I get respectful.
Stu was coming down the ladder, so
Okay,
he was on the roof. He was on the roof at the end of the day, just kind of cleaning
and your
up
buddy
some
was
stuff.
out.
Yeah.
So he said, "Hey, go handle him," and he doesn't. You don't even remember. You weren't talking. You weren't saying nothing. You were out.
He said, "I heard it. I turned around. You were on the ground. I came to you first. I rolled you over. Your eyes are all rolled back white. foam all over your mouth, no heart rate, he said, I would do CPR, your chest would go up, your chest would go back down. Finally, he said, he said many times, he said, I'm just thinking we killed Dan. And
Yeah.
he said, I ran across the street and then I came back.
Okay. So you are out cold and you remember seeing him, but what kind of transition is this? Like, as you said, you remember speaking to the power, to the God, to whatever that is, and having that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
In your mind, what kind of time frame? So you say, hey, get him. And then right away you're having a conversation with God and you're like, hey, this isn't my time. I'm going back. And then boom.
There was no sense of time at all there, Jim.
That's wild.
No sense of time at all.
That's so wild.
When I came back, that's why I had to ask him. I would say, well, Stu, how long was I dead?
Yeah.
He'd say, we would get together over the years and, we live in Philly, grab cheesesteak and a beer. I mean, when you go through something like that together, you're kind of brothers for a long time.
Oh yeah. Well,
and then cancer took him way too early. But we would always talk, and I don't know how many times we talked about it. And he would always say it had to be 8 minutes. He said, but there's no question. He said, you were dead, no question at all.
Were you you said you're born and raised Catholic?
Yeah.
I was born and raised Catholic.
Yeah.
Does this fall in line with what you think the Catholic religion talks about? Is this something, does this make you more spiritual, less spiritual, question things? Where does your mindset go after that happens? And I'd be curious, is it because, you always hear about people going to heaven, quote unquote, the heaven, and not the hell.
Yeah.
I'm just very curious about how all that works. Cause I've talked about in the show, I was born and raised Catholic and now I don't know what to believe. I believe there's a higher source, a higher power, but I don't know. Do you call it God? Do you call it the universe? Do you call it something else? Sure. Energy continues to go on. I believe that as well.
Yep.
But I'm just curious what that did spiritually to you before and after.
Mm-hmm. Well, raised in the traditional Catholic upbringing, you learn the framework of the church. You learn your answers, you study them, you regurgitate them on the tests and everything else. And for some time, God's this big white-haired dude sitting up on a throne, and he's going to get mad if you steal candy from your brother and stuff like that.
Fear, the fear.
Does it sound familiar? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And you'll go to hell. You'll burn in hell.
There's no question.
And then as I got older, I started to kind of challenge that still. Listen, Jesus is still my guy.
Okay.
There's no question he lived in my mind. There's no question he lived. There's no question that he was who he said he was. If anybody's going, well, I don't know, Danny, do yourself a favor and read a book called The Case for Christ.
Okay.
It was written by Lee Strobel, and he was a Jewish reporter at Chicago Tribune, I think. His wife started to have a relationship, a friendship with a woman who was Christian. And he got all pissed off and he said, you know what? I'm a reporter. I'm going to prove that this dude did not live and he was not who he was. And he went on this journey and he talked to medical people and people up at Harvard and geography. And it's just fascinating that everything comes back. It's kind of hard, for somebody to go, wow, this guy was not who he said he was. So what shifted for me really was it went from that organized religion to more of let me do my best every day to live this guy Jesus's message.
Okay.
Message, not where you go to church on Sunday, where you don't go to church, but what was his message?
Yeah.
And then to try to come back to that. So a lot of times people, and you used it, it's the religious versus the spiritual. For me, it's probably more spiritual. It's my relationship with the spirit, because I know now that energy that left my body is in my body now. And I believe it's in yours. I call it the Holy Spirit. The Native Americans would call it the Great Spirit or the wind, or as you said, some people call it consciousness. There's an energy that makes my body go that's not my heart, my lungs, and my brain. I need them, but there's another energy. And on July 28th, for whatever reason, it was called back to its source for a little while. And then it came back.
I freaking love this conversation. What the next question that pops in my head is, if all of that's true, okay, and I 100% the bottom of my heart believe the story you're telling is 100% true. There's no doubt in my mind. Two things that come into my head. Number one is, why are you still here? Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you've been asked that multiple times, but I
fucking idea.
Well, the other question I have is that
I do.
Well, it's interesting because if this is what happened to you and this is true and your time wasn't done yet, and then the way I look at you is you're a leader to be able to speak on this, but I also think to myself, even myself and everyone else out in the world listening to this podcast, what is your true meaning to your life? Are you just going to waste it away? Or is there something bigger that you need to actually start looking into and go after those goals and dreams? And that's what makes me feel like, oh my God, you had, no pun intended, you had an opportunity that you died, you came back. So now you realize the importance of this life, like how great it is. And now what is your mission has got to be completely dialed in. But I feel and I'm afraid for a lot of other people that since they don't have that experience,
Mhm.
they take it for granted. And that's why I say life is so important. So I guess two questions. Number one is, why are you still here?
Mhm.
Number two, what would you tell to somebody that is just going through life laissez-faire?
Yeah. So there's two questions. The first one, let me kind of unpack that a little bit. Why am I still here, or why did I come back? There's like
That's a
two
great
questions
question.
there.
Yeah. Yeah. Both questions, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah, why I came back, I have no freaking idea. I have no idea why I lived it and my buddy didn't. And I struggled with that for a long time. And I went down that dark road of all kinds of trying to figure out things, and depression and all that stuff. So I stopped trying to figure that out, and that's when I started to heal and say, well, don't focus on why you came back. Focus on the fact that you are here, and based on what you knew before the accident, and based on what you know now after it, what are you here for? And I struggled. I'm 57 now, and that was 28. So it was quite some time ago, and I still struggled through those years trying to figure things out. And I would say over the past probably 3 or 4 years is really where it's settling. I mean, I speak much more about this now. I speak much more about God, and the Holy Spirit than I ever did, because I know that is what I'm here to do, and that's my purpose. And it's not to come across preachy, but it's just to share my story with people and say, hey, listen, I'm just telling you what happened when I died. It's not about where you go to church, where you don't go to church, what you call your God, if you have one. Here's what happened.
Yeah.
So I think on this life, there's a meaning, a deeper purpose for us to get to that place where I had a little, dip my toes in the water. And if I had to describe it in the human words, love. It was just that absolute love. And you've heard so many times say God is love. So if,
Yeah.
if people worship in whatever religion, and the framework of that religion causes them to love more, I say right on, man. I say right on.
Yeah.
Um, and my purpose is simple. It's here. I got it. Elise knows it now. Our friend Elise. Um, my purpose is to connect with the Holy Spirit, connect with Spirit, and support my family, friends, and other people on this journey of life. Period. That's it.
It's powerful. And I consider you, a leader, and be speaking about that. And I respect that so much from you to
Thank you, man.
be honest with who you are and hey, this is what happened to me. And you're not trying to preach it, but hey, this is my story. And
Yeah. Yeah.
my question,
Because it's easy, Jeremy, to leave. Like, I'm Danny Bader here on this world. I'm Danny Bader to everybody else. And to me, that's truth, right?
yeah,
And, Pierre Desjardins was a Jesuit priest, and I studied a little bit in college. I'm kind of studying some of his work again. And he's the one that they say he's the one that said, we're not a human being having a spiritual experience, but rather a spiritual being having a human
mm,
experience. And that's more it now. So when I realized that Danny Bader's just this physical framework of this dude that lives outside of Philly and is married and has 3 beautiful kids. Really, Danny Bader is an extension of this source of energy and love. That our job here as human beings, I believe, is to evolve into that as best we can,
yeah,
because that's heaven, man. I mean, when we, and it won't, I don't know if it happened in my lifetime, when we get to that point, what world problem would not be solved through love?
exactly. And like I said before, I just, you can read you so authentic and so real. And in the world where authenticity is so unique, and I just appreciate that you talking about that. Have you had the experience to where, whether it's in a dream, whether it's some deep thought or in prayer, that you've reached that point again where you've maybe felt the presence of God
Oh yeah.
in your life? And I guess walk me through that. What would it take? Like, is it just you driving down the
Sure.
street and you feel something? Or is it
Yeah.
something
So
while
some,
you're praying or whatever? Like, walk me through that.
yeah. Sometimes I feel the presence of God, almost every day when I pray, when I meditate. I felt the presence of God through my buddy who passed away, through his energy. I feel him coming back to me, and it's almost as if he was talking to me, just especially when I was struggling early on, just to say, hey, take it easy, man. It's okay. Everything's going to be all right. It's not your fault. So if I understand that the same way in my framework that he, my buddy Bruce was the man physically, but he was also the extension and he had that energy, then that's still available to us. Anytime somebody passes away, and I just wrote a note to some parents last week whose son was tragically killed. Um, he was only 22. I didn't know any of them, but I know the kid's uncle. And I just got their address and wrote a note. And that's what I offered to them. And I said, hey, I understand your pain, and it's human and it's suffering, and you're going to miss him. And make sure that you keep yourself open to his spirit showing up and letting you know that he's going to be okay. And he is okay, because that's going to help you on your journey.
It's interesting you say keep that open,
Yeah.
because I think sometimes we're so closed on everything in our life. Because several things. This is the perfect podcast. I just did a podcast about a funeral. My cousin
I
passing away
listened to
last.
it yesterday, man. I was driving yesterday. I listened to it.
Well, it was just interesting. So that's why this is so on point. I had one of my best friends die when I was 30 as well, and every once in a while, man, I just feel he's there watching. I mean, it's
Sure.
it's so funny. Like me being the agnostic guy that I believe there's a higher power, but
Yeah.
it's just a weird conversation to have. And I love these conversations because they're powerful and makes me think too. And it
Oh, yeah.
makes me feel like there is gives me that peace of mind that there is something out there. There's something after this.
Yeah.
There is
Yeah.
nothing to be afraid. And for my family that went to the funeral, and anybody that had a loved one pass, I think this message is so powerful to feel that, when you do feel that energy, or you get the chills, or you just get that thought in your gut that maybe someone is there, maybe it's reality, maybe someone is there. I mean, that's
No,
probably
no, it
real.
very much is. But then, I did a podcast last night with my friend Tab. You would like her. She lives down in Nashville. She just wrote a book called Your Inner Animal Instincts. She's really cool. She's very much into energy and all. And we did a quick Facebook last night talking about the proof of God. Everybody's always trying to prove God. And here's what I'd say. Number one, you got to define what God is. What is it that you're trying to prove?
Yeah, there
And
you go.
then to prove something, you've got to have an experiment, right? But an experiment takes place on something that's physical in this world.
Sure.
Well, is God really? You see where I'm going?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
And then people sometimes they want me to prove God to them, and I said it's not about that.
Yeah.
It's about I have my beliefs. I'll share them with you, but it's not about me convincing you that you need to believe in this God. I'm just gonna tell you what happens. But two stories very quickly. I mean, Einstein has a wonderful quote that I use a whole lot. He said, "Coincidence is God's way of staying anonymous." So I have some really, really great friends that tragically lost a daughter when she was a senior in high school. And I sat with them and just cried with them and hugged them and did my best to support them. And I called on the Holy Spirit to help. And thankfully, they have two other daughters right now. They're doing great. We'll always remember Abby was her name. And the mom was telling me one time they were down in Texas. They were at a baseball game. And they're down there, and she's just kind of missing Abby, because she's there and family's there and all. And sure enough, as the game's getting ready, here comes somebody else in the front row, sits right down in front of her, number 32. That was Abby's number all through high school, number 32. And she just went, oh. She said, "You think I'm crazy?" I said, "Absolutely not." My buddy John Angelo, rest his soul, passed away a year ago in October. So Angel, played basketball with him. He's my college roommate. So I get a call from his wife Sunday morning, 4:00 in the morning. And I just seen him in the hospital. He was beating cancer for the second time, then took a turn. And I'm getting ready to fly to California on Sunday. She calls me. I'm like, all right, great. Not great. He's going bad. Change my flight, talk to all my buddies, hang around for a little bit. Finally, later that day, I get out to California, supposed to meet a friend of mine. I went to the hotel. I'm just, overwrought, just feeling bad for my buddy. I know he's in the good place, the place that I got a little taste of. So I'm in Newport Beach, getting ready to do a workshop for Marriott, some of my Southern California Marriott friends, at this really cool autograph hotel right there. And it's in the morning. It's like 6 o'clock. I'm on East Coast time. Angel's been dead now for, gosh, I don't know, 3-4 days or whatever. I go up to the top deck, of the hotel. I'm looking out at the ocean. The sun's coming up. It's beautiful. I am literally talking to him, man. Just saying, I miss you. I love you. I know. Literally, Jeremy. As I'm doing this, my phone vibrates. And I look down and it's a text from Angel. And it's a picture of him sitting on the beach reading my book called I Met Jesus for a Miller Lite.
Get out of here.
I was just consumed by his presence and his love. And I was half scared to text back. And I did. And it was his wife who had his phone and was just thinking of me, knowing I was traveling and knowing that I would enjoy seeing a picture of him on the beach reading my book. So, I mean, I can tell you stories like that forever.
Well, they're all powerful, and man, I appreciate you sharing them. I mean, that's so much. It's so comforting in the time that people are have loved ones passed away from COVID or even cancer, any just natural whatever. People dying, but this message is so powerful, and I'm glad you came onto the show to talk about this today. Once again, we're talking to Danny Bader, and he's speaker, author, obviously one of the most inspirational people I've ever met. Danny, I read a book called Good Leaders Ask Great Questions by John Maxwell. And we're going to go over still 7 questions. I can't wait to hear your answers for these questions. So question number 1 for Danny Bader is, what is the greatest lesson you've ever learned?
Greatest lesson I learned is
and I can probably guess what it is,
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think I already answered these 7. Yeah, the greatest lesson I learned is that there is a loving presence. It's inside of all of us, and we got to connect to that daily. And I'm sure Mr. Maxwell would agree with me on that one.
Oh, I guarantee he would. Yeah. Man, the stories that you're saying, and then you just saying that, man, it makes me think. It makes me, like I said, I like how you talked about, because being born and raised Catholic, I don't agree with a lot of the things the Catholic religion says. A lot of the things, but the way you frame that and the way you're talking about the energy source, and whether it be God or whatever I want to call it, or anybody wants to call it, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I believe there's something there, some source. And when you tell them that story and the way you told it, it makes me think about things a little bit deeper and more. It's more interesting now. So I know I've said it like 4 times, but I can't thank you enough. And I appreciate that story that you told, because it's going to make me think for a while. So much love on that one.
Good, right.
Question number 2 is, what are you learning now?
I'm learning now another lesson that I've known, that sometimes tough times are a gift. As I go, as a speaker who gets on a plane, goes to a hotel and speaks to live groups of people, that went away March 12th or 13th.
Oh, yeah.
And business was good for a couple of months because we put some Band-Aids on things, and then it really dried up, and this struggle, to keep your business going, and, take the financial hit that many of us took this year in the speaking world, has really forced me to look beyond it and say, what else, Danny? What else for you? Where's that bigger game? Where's that next level?
Isn't that awesome? I mean, it's just an opportunity, right? I mean, you go through these tough times and then you're like, okay, now what? And then this is just going to make you that much stronger, that much better as not only a speaker, but now you're going to have this whole nother game that you're going to be doing, and another opportunity for, and again, I say opportunity for financial reasons, but really it's more opportunity to talk to more people and change more lives. And that's really, I know why, that's why you're into it for sure. And that's why I do what I do. It's more powerful than any dollar amount you could ever put on it.
Yeah, it's so true, isn't it, brother?
Absolutely. Question number 3 is, how has failure shaped your life?
How has failure shaped it?
Yep.
I think failure just teaches me lessons, and I understand that it's part of the journey. I'm working on a book I was just writing this morning. It's all around transitions, and there's a quote in there. I think it's Seneca. The Socratics. I try to, or the Stoics rather. I try to follow them a little bit, and he says that he's sad for people who have lived a life without misfortune, because you will never know what you could have accomplished or how great you could be.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, the failure has taught me that, it's okay, and you're you're good just the way you are, and keep on rolling.
That's so
Learn from
powerful too. I mean, because you can go through life and have a successful life, but you never know how successful you are until you go through the shitty times,
Yeah.
and that's when your star starts. You start to
Yeah.
shine.
Yeah. And again, it comes back to what you define as success. The
Yeah,
majority of us love, we like nice things. We like financial security, and I like all that. The question is, how are you going about getting that? How are you going about producing that? That
yeah.
seems to be what's more important. And I think during these times, a lot of people are really considering that.
Well, I think it's important to do that. I think it's important that there's so many great people out there, have so many talents, and this is forcing people to come out of their shell and get out of their comfort zone, and express, finding their greatness within, and express themselves to a point that, if you like, I would tell everybody, hey, if you can tell a story and change one person's life, isn't that enough?
That's
So I
it.
think we're having a lot of people do that, whether through Facebook Lives or LinkedIn or Instagram, or whatever the case is, and people are
That's
changing more
it.
lives now than ever, and I love it.
Yeah.
It's exciting to see.
Yeah. We got some T-shirts with different Jackrabbit mantras on there. Jackrabbit's kind of the brand that I write about in the book, and Lead with Love (LWL) is one of them.
Oh, I
That's what I
love it.
just offer everybody. Lead with
Yeah,
love. Yeah. It's tough. I'm like, okay, and,
I
and just keep coming back to it.
I need to snag one of those shirts. Lead with love. I love it. It's powerful.
Yeah, I gotta send you some books and get you some shirts, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Question number 4 is, who do you know that I should know?
Do I know Tabitha Scott?
Okay.
I'll make the connection for you. Yeah, she's really cool. I think she'd be great on your podcast.
I love the opportunity. Sounds like a lot of fun. I think that was probably the one I watched last night. I was just laying in bed with my daughter and we're watching a little bit of your. It was probably from that podcast, and she seems awesome. Just
Yeah, blonde hair lady.
I don't remember. I want to
Yeah,
say
yeah, it was probably last night. We did a little live last night. Yeah, she's really cool.
yeah, very
She's
well
got
could
a
have been
great
her.
story too. She went through rough divorce, all kinds of tragedy, job, burnout, senior executive, all this.
Yeah.
And she went to Costa Rica and just lived in the jungle, like deep in the jungle in this condo, but I use that term condo loosely.
Yeah.
It's a good story, man. You would like it.
Yeah, a condo in the jungle. I can understand why that would be
Of
loosely
Costa
for
Rica.
sure.
Scorpions and bats and
That's
snakes.
great. Yeah, that's great. Question number 5 is, what have you read that I should read?
I just finished reading The Alchemist for probably the 6th or 7th time. Have you read it?
Oh, absolutely. I love it on audiobook the most.
Yeah, The
Jeremy
Alchemist
Irons
is
reads
good.
it.
And then it's interesting. My wife and I we just did the downsize thing 2 weeks ago. So we had 4-bedroom house, middle America, 2-car garage,
Oh,
all
yeah.
that, yard, deck, and all. And the kids are all out, with the exception of our daughter's a sophomore in college. She's back and forth. So we did the downsize thing. And I said, I'm really going to purge. I had so many books, Jeremy.
Oh,
And I had a
yeah.
really nice office with all built-in shelves. And I thought, why are these really here?
Yeah.
And I got to the point where I wanted them because when people come in, I wanted them to be impressed with all these books.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what you see right now
Oh,
is
yeah.
pretty much what I got. This one, if you can find it, my friend Jody, who owns a restaurant out in Aspen, Colorado, sent it to me. And it's brilliant, man. It's called The Art of Living by Wilfred Peterson. The Art of Living. You see, it's this cool little gold book.
Yeah, it looks cool.
Yeah, you got to take a look, because I looked after she sent it to me as a gift, and it was pretty hard to find some. And then you can read I Met Jesus for a Miller Lite if you want. That's mine. I'll get you one of them.
Absolutely. I love it. The Art of Living, for sure. We'll check that one out. Yeah, absolutely. I read your book. Heck yeah. What's the book right next to the one that you just pulled? I think I know that book too. On this, yeah, right over there.
Over here?
Yep, the one you pulled. The Art of Living, the one right next to it. What's that?
Oh, that's Robin Sharma. Yeah, The Saint, the Surfer, and the CEO.
Okay. I don't know that.
The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari.
Okay, that's the book I've read. The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. I love that book.
Yeah, there's a couple ones, and then The Alchemist is there. Man's Search for Meaning, you probably read.
Oh, yeah.
The Revolutionary Communicator is about Jesus and how he communicated through his stories and parables. The Case for Christ, as I said, is there. And then Goff's Sacred Journey is another good little one that I wanted to hold on to.
I love it.
Yeah.
You mentioned being a downsizing. I became a minimalist a few years ago, and it's one of the most interesting journeys you could possibly go on, because you start giving things away, and then I'd hold on to certain things. Like, I need this to remember this.
Yeah.
And I've gotten rid of so many things. I don't remember what the hell I gave away. I mean, it's crazy. I actually gave away my golf clubs 2 weeks ago, and I golf maybe twice a month or twice a year. And why am I carrying these things around? If I just want to get it, I'm a hack at best. if I go golfing next summer, I'll just buy some cheap
I just
set.
bought new irons for the first time in 24 years last year, so I gotta hold on to them for another couple of
Well,
years.
I get that, but I literally I've gotten rid of everything out of my life, and now I'm so mobile and so easy-going. I learned a long time ago that it was several things. If you haven't touched anything in a year, you get rid of it.
Yeah, right.
No matter what it is. It's your favorite shirt, your favorite coat, some shoes I'm gonna wear. If you don't touch it in a year, get rid of it.
Yeah,
And also,
absolutely.
I learned if you put your arms out and your hand wherever you are, and you see something and you point at something that you haven't touched or doesn't blow you away, you just get rid of it.
Yeah,
And so I started getting rid of all kinds of things. And now I'm to the point that everything I have, I need.
yeah,
If I need something, I go out and get it, but I don't keep it. I just use it for what it's for, and then I get rid of it. And
yeah. That's
that
cool.
minimalist life is unbelievable. Allows you to be super mobile. I can
Yeah,
move on a drop of a dime. I don't need to rent anything. I'm gone, which
yeah,
is great. But
yeah. I'm not where you are, but I'm headed in that direction. It's cool.
it's interesting, my friend. It's very, very interesting lifestyle. People don't think, I mean, I don't have a couch. I don't have love
Yeah,
seats. I don't have chairs. I don't.
yeah. You know the coolest thing, and I would offer to your to your to your audience right now. As I was going through my office, I had a nice size office, and I had all kinds of different prints and all these things, and I started to identify the ones that I wanted to give away. Like, who would I give this to? And
Yeah.
then I'd write a note on the back or whatever. That was really cool. So if anybody's kind of intrigued by this, I would say take a look and find two things. Could be a book, could be a wall, something hanging on your wall. And just think about who could you gift that to, and let them know why you're gifting it. And just send it, man, out of the blue. It's pretty cool.
That's a great idea. I love it.
Yeah.
Question number 6 is, what have you done that I should do?
Well, I wish everybody had a chance to die and come back to life.
I'm not doing that, my friend. I'm
Things
not
would be
doing
better
that.
here, but no, I don't want you to do that anytime soon. What would you do? I have gone to a silent retreat at the Immaculate Heart Center for Spiritual Renewal. It's in Montecito, California, so it's nestled right below Santa Barbara. They're still not open due to those mudslides a number of years ago, but I would recommend, if you haven't gone 2, 3, 4 days silent retreat, do that. And if you can go to, this place was just spectacular. I mean, I'd get up at sunrise and hike, and sit way up above looking at the Pacific Ocean, just let the heat from the rocks come into my legs. Good stuff, man.
When you go to a silent retreat, do you talk to yourself at night? I know it sounds so
A little
silly,
bit.
but if you're dead, okay, so you're like, you could be like, I've wanted to do one.
little bit.
There's one in, I think there's one in like New York or Maine that I've really thought about. And I think some of them you can go a week, but I don't know if I could go a week without talking, but maybe a
Yeah.
couple days. I think
And
that
I'll
would be
sing too. When
powerful.
I'm hiking, I don't know that I have the greatest voice for singing. If somebody was judging it, but I don't worry about it. I just sing a little bit. Now, this place that I go to has like a full-on silent retreat, and then sometimes you can just come and do a private retreat. So oftentimes, I only did one silent. Oftentimes, I'll come and do where for the most of the day I'm by myself, but
Yeah.
I may see somebody in the kitchen, in the pantry, and you may just exchange a few words. Nobody's real conversational, unless you want to be. Like, you come down for dinner, whoever's in the main house, and you can engage as much as you want. So a lot of times I would just sit at the table and kind of listen, which is very hard for me as an extrovert. So that was a whole way of learning. And they knew, it wasn't rude. They just knew you were kind of on your journey,
Man, I would love that. You know what? 2021, that's what I'm going to do.
You gotta
I'm going to do
it,
a
man.
silent retreat some way, somehow.
Yeah.
For at least 3 days.
Yeah. I did do it last year. I didn't go because that place has been closed, but right near me in Philadelphia, there's a Newman University, a Catholic university, and they have these really cool hermitages because it's also a retreat place. And it's a room about 14 by 14 that's built up off the ground on like 12 by 12. And because it's modeled after St. Francis, and he really appreciated the earth. And I have gone there a couple times, probably for 48 hours, maybe a little bit more. And I just stay in there and I hike, and I don't talk to anybody there because they're kind of down on the edge of the woods. I put my phone on and I just let my wife's number come through in the event she would need me. But otherwise, everything else is blocked. I take some coffee, I take some eggs, I take some soup, and that's a pretty good time.
That sounds like a great time, man.
I'll probably do that in January this year.
That sounds life-changing. I love it.
Yeah, it's good.
Final question, my friend, and again, we're talking to Danny Bader. Danny, how can I add value to you?
How can you what?
How can I add value to you?
Oh, thanks, man. Just I would say just every now and again, keep me in your thoughts, prayers, send some energy my way. That's really it. Just, I text people, gosh, 2 or 3 people a day because they'll just cross my mind and I may not have talked to them for a long time.
Yeah.
And just say, hey man, just thinking about you and, trusting that life is good. And, I'm here if you ever need anything. I know we're crazy and we're busy right now, but I love you. And I trust life is good for you.
I love that because I do that in the morning sometimes. I'm going to work instead of listening to the same old songs that I've heard 4,000 times. I pick up my phone. Who haven't I talked to in a while? And I love reaching out. And Danny, I'm going to add you to the collection, my friend.
Oh, right on, man. I will welcome that, Jeremy.
Heck yeah, brother. It'd be
Now,
awesome.
Where are you in Indiana?
I'm in Northern Indiana, my friend. Yeah. And actually, I've been kicking around, moving again. I've moved quite a bit. I lived in California. I lived in Northern California a little bit. I lived in Asheville, North Carolina for a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm kicking around, maybe moving back out Southwest. And next month or in February, I'm going to fly from here to Vegas to drive to Flagstaff, hit Phoenix, hit Albuquerque, Santa Fe, and then I'm going to fly back. So I'm going to do like I'm going to check out some of those areas and I'm always open for an opportunity.
Yeah.
So if the good Lord or the higher power, what opens that door, hey man, I'm walking through it.
I got to talking good Lord now.
You better believe it.
The desert, I love Scottsdale. I've done a lot of work out there with JW Marriott, the Salt River Courtyard, some wonderful people. And man, there's nothing like a hike out in the desert,
Yeah, I'm excited to get back out there. I've been out there and what's that?
Yeah, you feel something bigger than us out there, man.
Yeah, I can't wait to get out there. It's just it's just different, man. And I love the weather and I love the heat and I just love everything about everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I don't like the cold. So if I can go south anywhere, I'm good with that. The north these winters wear me out, but
yeah,
this is what it is, my friend.
We had a little snow here today outside of Philly. That was kind of weird, just a little sprinkle, but
it's that time of year, my friend. Danny, I can't thank you enough for sharing your story, sharing your message. And really what I want to thank you for more than anything is just really being authentic and sharing that message, no matter what anybody else is saying, and inspiring people around the world. And I know the things that you're doing for families that are hurting, that are struggling. I can't thank you enough for that because there's not a lot of people out there like you that would that have the story but also have the wherewithal and the care and the belief and just the open heart. And we need more people like you in this world. And I just want to thank you for being you. How about that?
Yeah, I love it. Thank you, Jeremy. And right back at you, man. Right back at you.
Danny, where can everybody find you?
They can find me at DannyBader.com. Is probably my central presence. And then from there, they could go anywhere. We've got the books out there. Back to Life is the journey about my accident. I met Jesus for a Miller Lite is another one that I put out a couple of years ago. I'm working on one for transitions. We just released a really cool new course too called Back to Life. And it's 29 videos, about an hour and a half in total, but smaller snippets.
Yeah.
And we just got that, and that's being well received. It's kind of my jackrabbit methodology of vision and stillness and knowing yourselves and beliefs and mindset. So if anybody out there is looking to kind of reset, and we priced it really, really low because, before somebody said it's got to be higher, and we tried. And I said, listen, man, I want, as many people to get it as possible.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's pretty cool. And the feedback's been great. So, happy with that.
No, I'm sure it's got to be great, my friend. If you're putting your seal of approval, it's got to be off the hook and money in the bank. So again, I appreciate the work you do, my friend. And hey, for all the listeners out there, make sure you check out Danny Bader. Run over to DannyBader.com, find him, follow him, get his books, get the shirts, do all that good stuff. Obviously, it's going to change your life, and hopefully this podcast changes your life. Take an opportunity to share this and share it with a friend, share it with someone that a loved one that may be just going through some tough times, because better times are coming for sure. There are positive energies out there, and I love saying that. Run over to thepositivesidepodcast.com. I got the new book, my new book. Make sure you check that bad boy out as well. That bad boy's up on Amazon. Check that bad boy out. Run over to YouTube. I mean, a lot of stuff going on. Check us all out. I appreciate you tuning in. Like I always say in every episode, you've got greatness within. Like always, this is The Positive Side.